This NFL trade deadline brought a lot of excitement, a lot of madness to the NFL. Unfortunately, no, there wasn't much related to the Cleveland Browns yesterday's deadline. A move was made. We'll talk about maybe some of the obstacles as to why moves were not made for the Browns. All that and more on your latest Browns 3D live on the OBR streaming network. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We greatly appreciate all of you who come to the OBR daily for the best Cleveland Browns coverage there is, whether it is the written content over at theobr.com. While you're there, I highly recommend looking into the Insider package, the Insider forums, Ask the Insiders, and of course, you can have a subscription bundle Paramount Plus, which give you all the January UFC action that you can possibly stomach. And to everyone that comes out nightly to join us here at the OBR streaming network, again, we are extremely thankful and grateful for all of you. You will have Browns 3D beginning every day at 6 p.m. You will have Fred and Mike Keefe with Terry Pluto at 7 o'clock this evening. You will also get Garage Beers with Mike Keefe and crew at 9 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you stick around for all that. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube and of course the OBR over on Twitch. Now, the trade deadline thoughts. Certainly the Browns did make one minor move. Reserve defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was traded along with a 7th-round pick to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 6th-round pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Tryon was an off-season free agent acquisition brought in on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. When brought in, you knew he was behind Myles, Garrett. You knew he was behind Isaiah McGuire. You knew he was probably behind Alex Wright. And then there was probably going to be a battle between Tryon-Shoyinka and Cam Thomas. And Cam Thomas obviously just, outplayed him for the snaps. Joe Tryon contributed on special teams. He also contributed minor on the Browns defense. I think it was 31 snaps, so it certainly wasn't a great amount for Tryon. It was a move the Browns made. I think he was also Cam Thomas wasn't here very long in 2024, so the Browns did not have the overall idea of Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas certainly, developed into a rotational piece for this season and was able to hold off Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. No love lost, obviously. That Browns edge room has certainly seen some maneuvering, I guess I would use, as far as this season is concerned. Everybody came into this year assuming that, Myles and Isaiah McGuire were the holdovers. Alex Wright, to his credit, has had a really, really strong season to this point, and to the point now where Alex Wright is out snapping Isaiah McGuire. I've said many times, and I will continue to say, if I'm the Browns, I'm working to get Alex Wright to put pen to paper, keep that going. You have Isaiah McGuire under a rookie contract for one more year into 2026. It's not a bad trio at the top for the Cleveland Browns, and certainly something they could address in the offseason by either A, keeping Cam Thomas, B, looking into the free agent market. And as you've read Jack Duffin's work, and I do agree with Jack on this, that, there's a chance to find really good value for rotational pass rushers in free agency. Or, of course, C, you can always draft a pass rusher. If my roster is hopefully under construction the way I would like it to be, I would probably try and draft a pass rusher every draft. There's nothing wrong with having youth within that room, and there's certainly nothing wrong with having, controlling of a rookie contract within your pass rush room as well. Now, I think the local media, and then, of course, it was probably picked up by the national media, maybe sold us all a bag of BS as far as maybe what the Browns' intentions were for the trade deadline this year. Oh, the Browns are going to be buyers. Okay. Now, the thing is, what's available normally at the trade deadline doesn't necessarily seem to fit a motif of what the Cleveland Browns would have been looking to acquire. The Browns are looking, well, had been looking for young, controllable offensive talent. I don't want to hear the name Jacoby Myers. He's on an expiring contract. Raheem Shaheed, who went to Seattle, is on an expiring contract. Neither one of those players would have done anything for the Cleveland Browns this year. Wouldn't have changed the fortunes of this season. If there were teams who had reserve, young, promising offensive linemen, what in the hell would they have been trading them for? David Njoku certainly was a name that was floated out for the Browns to possibly have on the market. And, I can confirm that David's name was out there in talks. Can also confirm that the Browns didn't really have much intention at all to move David Njoku unless it was something that wowed them. And by wowing them, the word is it would have been a third round pick or better, which basically says, on an expiring contract for David Njoku, not many people were going to bite on that. Njoku spoke early Wednesday with the media and basically expressed his intent and gratitude that he is still here in Cleveland, that he wants to stay in Cleveland. I've said numerous times, I think the Browns, along with Njoku, probably have a pretty good foothold on what it would take to keep David in Cleveland. And the thought is that maybe it's another 2 years. Certainly the contract can be structured and sound monetarily like it's a deal longer than that. But the belief is that David Njoku and the Cleveland Browns would like to continue their working relationship another 2 seasons. No disrespect to David, of course. He's certainly not the on-field talent that Myles Garrett is. But these two are vital in their own rights to each side of the football that they play on. David is loved. David is respected. I think there is certainly no question that David Njoku's role would be just as vital in 2026 as it has been in 2025. I'm not sure that Harold Fannin ever develops completely into a true number one overall type tight end in the NFL. Harold's, just a little bit lacking in size. Harold does not need, certainly by any means whatsoever, to be your inline, true, traditional tight end. You look at the production that Harold Fannin is giving this team this year alone in an offensive system that is probably best described right now as a mess. And you were seeing certainly solid production from Harold Fannin. I had my concerns about what Fannin was going to be able to do as a rookie just because of being so young and, of course, coming from the MAC. And Fannin has done an excellent job in accelerating his own growth path here in his rookie year. Judkins and you want to talk about the rookies on the offensive side of the ball. This is, the star and show right now of the two guys who have absolutely made the most progress as quickly as possible. So, David's staying on, a deal where, there can be, financial resources that are amicable for both sides. Of course, David and of course the Cleveland Browns, which then, allows for Fannin to continue to grow into the role that he is already excelling in. I guess there's ways to look at the trade deadline, and it's kind of funny that it's labeled maybe winners and losers at the trade deadline, because I'm sure the New York Jets are extremely happy with the work that they pulled off on Tuesday. And you might not agree with what the Dallas Cowboys did, but you certainly have to think that the Dallas Cowboys believe they won with their Quinn and Williams move. Tanking. Are the Cleveland Browns trying to tank? Are the New York Jets trying to tank? I'm not sure that tanking actually exists the way people believe it exists. The NFL is full of professional football players. And on the right day for any one of the 32 teams in the NFL, my best 11 on offense can beat your best 11 on defense. My best 11 on defense can beat your best 11 on offense. So people trying to criticize the Browns for, not giving everything away to maybe recoup a return somewhat like the New York Jets did. Unless the Browns were going to trade Myles Garrett, which was never really a thought, you were not going to get a return from any player on the Browns roster like the Jets did by moving Quinn and Williams. It's just not that type of players right here with this team right now. The Sauce Gardner to the Colts deal for 2 first-round picks. I know we all love Denzel Ward, and we do, but don't believe for a second at this point in his career that Denzel Ward would have brought you back 2 first-round picks in a trade. If he could have, odds are pretty good that Denzel Ward would no longer be a Cleveland Brown. The Sauce Gardner move for the Jets, I'm sorry, it's a no-brainer. There's very few cornerbacks in the NFL, and I'll argue at times there's probably no corner in the NFL that is probably worth 2 first-round picks. I'm sure when the offer came in from the Colts, it just absolutely blew the minds of everyone within that New York Jet front office, so much so that you had no choice but to move on from Sauce Gardner. For the Colts, it's a bold move, man. It really is. Because you have to keep in mind, at the quarterback position, the Colts, for all intents and purposes, are done with Anthony Richardson and believe that Anthony Richardson's never going to gravitate any higher than he is as far as his NFL talent, which means it was an absolute wasted pick. But also, the Indianapolis Colts have Daniel Jones currently on a 1-year deal. And Daniel Jones has been extremely impressive this year. Obviously, last Sunday in Pittsburgh was just an absolute stink fest. Turned the ball over 5 times. That is an incredibly terrible day for an NFL quarterback. But now the Colts are in this situation where the move in going for Chauncey Gardner yesterday basically tells the rest of the league that you view that Daniel Jones is your long-term option in Indianapolis. I'm not disagreeing with it, but I mean, after 9 games, that's all you got to go on if you're the Colts. And we'll see how it works out after the loss in Pittsburgh. The Colts' first loss of the season to the Rams ignited another run. Let's see if this loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers allows them to basically circle the wagons again and ignite another run for the Indianapolis Colts. But that's it. It's Daniel Jones in Indianapolis now for a while. The Jets, I get it, but you now have to go out in addition to finding your future signal caller. And hell, it could be a guy like Kyler Murray. You also have to go out and hope that you can acquire a defensive tackle. And Quinn's numbers are down this year. They're down pretty bad. But you need to go out and acquire a defensive tackle, hopefully on the level of Quinn and Williams. You need to go out and hopefully find a cornerback on the level of Sauce Gardner. And yes, Sauce doesn't get picked on a lot, doesn't get thrown out a lot, doesn't get a lot of interceptions. He's a top 5 corner in this league. And there's certainly a lot of people you can speak to who believe that Sauce Gardner is the absolute overall top corner in this league. The Browns, and I'm sure calls were made on the offensive line, but let's be honest. We've all watched this Cleveland Browns offensive line for 8 weeks. What has anyone seen from this Browns offensive line collectively or solo from some of these guys on the offensive line that would have had teams burning up the phone lines in Berea? So, you're not going to move Joel Bitonio for a day 3 pick this late in his career where he's got everything invested into this area with his wife and his family. And this could be Joel's final season for the Browns. Certainly could be. Ethan Posick, I'd probably say with a good amount of faith, this is going to be his last season with the Cleveland Browns. If there's one guy on that offensive line, maybe I'm starting to waver on a little bit. Maybe it's Wyatt Teller. I mean, a pro's pro. Another guy that is spoken of so highly. He and his wife are just so settled into the community. And we've said many times that we're looking at the Browns of most likely having to completely overhaul the entire offensive line. You can do it. It's certainly not easy. But you find a way to maybe make things work with Wyatt Teller. And all of a sudden, that's at least one area on that offensive line that has some, strength to it. Conklin, I just don't know how to see the Browns go down that road again. Unfortunately, Jack, when he has been healthy for this team, has been an outstanding right tackle. But the fact of the matter is Jack Conklin has been out more than he's been in. And the Browns certainly have been more than gracious to Jack Conklin in working his contract to his favor on more than one occasion. Cam Robinson did not practice today with an illness, but you have to believe right now that Cam Robinson is auditioning with the Cleveland Browns and hopefully trying to be at least one of those guys that can at least be a holdover for 2026. Somebody in the building with experience, of course. Don't know what any of these guys were going to be worth. We just saw what Cam Robinson was worth, a month ago, 5 weeks ago? Wasn't worth much, obviously. So what the Browns would have wanted to buy at the deadline, I got to be honest with you, it wasn't there. It wasn't available. We know what the Browns would want. It's what everybody would want. And it's not like anybody's going to give it up. And I don't think there were certain things, Njoku and probably some of the offensive line, that the Browns were willing to give away for what they felt maybe was nothing. They are trying to evaluate these guys on offense. Granted, the offense has been absolutely piss poor. But you were to move on from the offensive linemen that are currently there, start playing some of these bench guys that the Browns have, the odds are probably pretty good this offense would have looked even freaking worse. So it certainly doesn't help Dylan Gabriel grow. It certainly wouldn't help Shador Sanders grow. It's not doing anything for the young wide receiver. Certainly wouldn't have helped Quinshon Judkins' numbers. Are the Browns tanking? I don't believe they are. 'Cause I believe there's a thought process within that building that, playing good football, better football, maybe some winning football can go a long way for all the youth that the Browns currently have, including, a rookie class that's up in the double digits between drafted picks and obviously undrafted players playing meaningful snaps, playing a lot of reps. So it all can't be about, what the plan is in April. And everybody, well, the Browns weren't going to get. Where were we sitting this time last year? And I guarantee you, none of us thought the Cleveland Browns were going to end up with the number 2 overall pick. Granted, they traded out of it, of course, as we all know. When we were all sitting here this time a year ago, nobody thought the Cleveland Browns would get a sniff at the number 1 overall pick. And somehow they ended up with the number 2 overall pick. Again, shit luck. Wasn't a quarterback there to be had. What do they do or see from here? Just play out the hand, man. Just play it out. New York Giants are in the equation, obviously. Giants not going to be looking to go quarterback. So whatever the Giants do is probably irregardless. Saints are certainly going to be in the mix. Jets, without question, will be in the mix. Titans will not probably be in the mix. So it is a little early to start talking about where and when exactly, it's going to shake out as far as the quarterbacks here for the 26 NFL draft. And you have to keep in mind, the Jets could easily go veteran route here in 26 and put their eyes maybe towards whatever the 27 class will be. So, I mean, it's too early for those conversations. I mean, let's at least maybe get to December before we see how that all starts shaking out. In addition to Cam Robinson not practicing today, Carson Schlesinger out of practice with the ankle injury. Isaiah Bond out of practice with a foot injury. Don't know what to make of that. Obviously, we knew of Schlesinger's injury. Don't remember Bond getting hurt against New England. Nor do I really care right now. If Isaiah Bond doesn't play this week, that's fine. I'd rather see Gage Lavardane. I'd rather see Malachi Corley, and I'd certainly rather see Jamari Thrash get the reps over Isaiah Bond right now. Now, Shedeur Sanders back at practice today, but it was in a limited capacity. So even after the bye, certainly not the opportunity was there for Sanders to heal up enough to where he's back in full practices. Now, it being Wednesday, I don't want everybody to be up in arms on Sunday, but being Wednesday, my guess is Shedeur Sanders is not going to dress again on this Sunday against the New York Jets, which makes Ali Zappi going to be the number 2 quarterback. You're not going to rush him. There's no reason to rush Shedeur right now. And, if he was laid up most of the bye week with a back injury, and here it is, this week already on Wednesday, and he's not able to give you a full workout. Even if he wakes up on Friday and says he feels pretty good, what's the point of it? All right, we'll talk about it next week, and hopefully, your back gets even better. It makes no sense to rush him. It makes no sense to push him. Everybody's always so worried about, these guys failing. Well, let's make sure we're not throwing them in there with what stinks and reeks of an opportunity to fail. God forbid his number is called. Plus, with 9 games to go, if Shedeur doesn't look much better than Dylan Gabriel, I don't know exactly what in the world the plan would be from there. Traveling for the Jets on Sunday. I mean, and it's early to this point. And to this point, the New York Jets have still not declared who's going to be the starting quarterback for that team on Sunday. Still seems weird. I mean, Justin Fields, who, had a really solid effort against the Cincinnati Bengals and then really kind of opened up and, in my opinion, brought a light to how difficult it is to sometimes be a quarterback within the NFL. Not sure how his owner views it, of course. But for it to not be Justin Fields just sounds absolutely asinine to me. Obviously, the Jets are going to have some major holes, one at the cornerback position, one at defensive tackle, of course, as this team finds its legs. Brees Hall, on an expiring contract, didn't get traded because apparently the Jets and the Chiefs were quibbling over a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick. It does seem weird if you were the Jets at that point, just move the guy, Brees Hall can drop 250 in total yardage on anybody on any given Sunday and all of a sudden make a difference in a game that, if the Jets are maybe trying not to win games, Brees Hall can certainly screw that plan up for them. Jermaine Johnson, I mean, there were talks that maybe, there were teams offering a high second-round pick. I'm sorry, later second-round pick. Again, what was the point? Why not just do it? I mean, just doesn't make much sense to me, of course, the way the Jets handled some major things. And once those got handled, at that point, man, the minor stuff should have just been easy. Just move on from everybody. Of course, everybody's been asking about Tommy Rees being the new play caller and Jerry Jeudy. We'll see on Sunday, which I think that's pretty fair and accurate way to put it. Because, I mean, look, it started on Monday. You asked him before practice on Wednesday. So they had one practice with Tommy Rees. And from what I know about Monday's practice, it wasn't anything, super, competitive. It was more just hey, we're back from the bye. We're getting our, sea legs back under us and getting ready to go to work. I do wonder if, Tommy Rees is going to try to maybe throw some more things that you might see on a Saturday of football, college-wise, into the Sunday version of football. With all the kids you got and all the youth you have on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, these guys are, still very familiar with their college offenses. So, but that's the thing, slip screens, these types of things. If the Browns can't execute the most simplistic stuff on offense, the bells and whistles ain't going to fool freaking nobody. That's the problem. And that's where the difficulties lie in trying to make the offense grow. Again, if you're just not executing on the simplest of things, 37, 38 toss. If that's not executing, I mean, you're not really fooling anybody else into, falling for the eye candy motions and those types of things. Like I said, you get Mike Keefe and, of course, Fred Greetham with Terry Pluto later this evening. Garage Beers with Mike Keefe and the crew, I believe, starting off at 9 o'clock tonight. So make sure you guys stick around for that, of course. Make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube. Of course, the OBR over on Twitch. I want to thank all of you who come to the OBR daily for the best Cleveland Browns coverage there is, whether it's the written content at theobr.com. Make sure you look into the insider package, insider forums, ask the insiders, have your subscription bundled with Paramount Plus. Come January, you and the UFC sitting there in unison, watching guys getting ankles broke, nose broke, eyes blacked, all that good stuff. And we appreciate you for the continued support here for the OBR streaming network. Beginning every day at 6 p.m. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube and, of course, the OBR over on Twitch. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.